formula. Now, if you check on on this formula in J4, you can see we are ranking H4, comma, $H, $4. I mean $H4 to $H8. So the only part that we are making absolute is the H part. We are not making the whole cell absolute. Like we are not locking this other part. So when you copy, when you go, it changes to H5. When you check, it changes to H6, blah, blah, blah. But when you go to this other side, you can see there's a difference. This I is changing. I3, the whole of I is changing because we did not lock it. But when we check at H is not changing because we locked it. So I just wanted to demonstrate the difference between relative and absolute cell referencing. So we will use absolute cell referencing for all of it, for the whole formula. And when you press enter and now drag and drop, the positions change the way they are supposed to change. I don't know if I've lost any one of you or if we are on the same page. Again, you just feel free to text in the chat or speak out. Okay, so that is it for cell referencing. We have other things that you can do using Excel sheet. There are too many. For example, we just have this data is not that much. I think I need to get a lot of data so that we can use it. So for example, you can decide to change this to a table. So to do that, you can just select data and come to insert table. And you decide, does your table have headers? If it doesn't have, you uncheck this. If it has, you check it. And then your data will be changed to the table, to a table. Now, when your data is a table, you can play around a lot. It becomes more fun to play around with it. You can decide just to select only 12 and you'll only see maybe the one who has math that has 12. We can use, that's what we call using filters. You can decide, let me select all again. You can decide that you just want to select specific people. So you click on the table title that you want to use to filter, and then you check or uncheck what you don't want. For example, I've unchecked John Kamau and Paulina Richards. And so the rest that will show up excludes John Kamau and Selena Richards. Okay, and this one mostly works when you have a lot of data to work with. Next time, if we are going to meet, we'll connect to we'll try to connect to a database and get data from it just to have fun. And then other things that we can do when it's a table, we can decide to sort from largest to smallest or from smallest to largest. Sometimes you have a lot of data and maybe it's confused, like this one is confused. So you can decide to sort from A to Z or Z to A. Sometimes you can decide to sort using just a color. You use a color to sort everything that you want. So When it comes to color, you can decide, oh, let's sort on values, cell color, font color. For example, if I say cell color, and I've not really put specific colors there. I've not added colors, but if you decide to sort using cell color, remember you have to make sure that your cells have colors already, like you have inserted, you have filled your cells with colors. When you sort, it will be easy. I mean, it will work. Okay, I'm going to do something else, and that is adding what we call slicers. Okay, so what I'll do, I will just make this to be a normal text again. I've just undone, but there's another way. You can just remove it from being the table, and then it should work. Now, if you want to add slicers, so slicers, they're very funny. Um, Slicers are used when you want to, normally it happens when you want to filter data. Let's say you just want to check student name peke yake, or let's work with it, and then I think it's better when it's live. We work when it's live so that you can understand using an example. So to add a slicer, you will click on insert, then you say slicer, and then you decide the connection you want. Sometimes you can have connection, you might want to take connection from maybe when you're taking data from database. Sometimes it's on your computer network, or network, I mean, of the company, or you want just use the workbook. So for us, we are using workbooks, this workbook. So I'll click on the workbook, and I will say browse. So we will look for the workbook that we want to use. Mine is on desktop. Just a minute. Okay, let me this computer. And then, okay, this one might not work because the first row, they are not headers. So I'll just go in and clean it kiasi. And then I will save and insert again. So insert slices. Then I will say this is this computer, and then I will browse, and I will say all files. I'll go to desktop where I saved my this current Excel sheet, and then I will open. Then I'll say it's on sheet one. This is sheet one, and then I will say okay. Okay, it's fine. Just a minute. Let me convert it first. Okay. Okay, it's fine. So I'm sorry about that. I had mistaken slicer for something else. So before we insert slicers, we are going to learn how to insert pivot tables. So sometimes you might have a lot of data to work with, and you want to make sure that it's very, very easy to work with. That's when the pivot table comes in. So when you want to insert pivot table, you will just click on insert, and then you want to say pivot table, and then you will select the range, and you can decide whether sometimes you might have an external connection like a database or what have you. So this is where you will just come and connect. You click on choose connection, then you connect. Or sometimes like right now, we just want to use the current Excel sheet. And so Excel will try to highlight the data it feels like is visible. And so for this instance, I think it is correct. We don't want to adjust. Alafu, you will decide whether you want your pivot table to report on pivot table report to be on the current worksheet or to be on a new worksheet. So this is something that you choose by yourself. So me, I'll just say a new worksheet so that it can be easy for us. Actually, let's use the current worksheet, existing worksheet. And then we want to choose location. Uh, we can choose location like that. And then we say, okay. Now, you will see pivot table has been added. And when you check on your far right, you will see there are fields here. I'll just click on settings, and you can check all these other settings that are here. Now, for me, I might say, okay, let me just explain something. When you come down here, you will see there are different ways to play around. So you can decide to put things to be columns or rows. Even though if they were columns, you can decide that I just want these to continue being columns. Ama, you can decide to flip them to be rows. So depending on what you want to do, you'll put them on where they are supposed to be. So for me, I'll just tick everything so that we can see how it looks first. This is how it looks. You can see with pivot table, it adds the sum. I mean, if you are not careful, you will notice that it's saying sum of English, sum of mathematics, sorry, sum of math, sum of English, sum of Swahili, sum of Luya, sum of Luo, sum of Digo total, sum of total, sum of average, sum of position. It's because we have put them down here in values. So if you want, you can play around and remove them. If you want, you can just come here and say remove field. So if you remove a field, you see, let me undo and redo it again. Pivot tables are tricky to work with sometimes. So if someone is not careful, they might mess up their data. So if you want to remove, for example, I want to remove sum of position, I'll just come here and say remove field, and it won't appear. However, I might not want to have sum. So let me undo again. I might want, instead of doing sum, I just want them to come on this side. So I'll just drag them and drop. So you see, when you drag and drop, things kind of change a little bit. We just want to make sure that whenever you are doing anything, it is helping your data to be more clean. For example, the way I have arranged here, you can see that I have put the name of the student, this one, total, this is the total, average, this is the average. So I have put them as rows. And when we do like that, our data, someone might not understand this data really. They might be wondering, oh, so you're adding all this is 12. Again, why are you adding 99, 99, 99? Then there is 20, 20, 20. I mean, someone will be very, very confused. So that is where you, as an Excel expert, maybe when you get hired, that's why you come in and tell your boss, I can work with this and I can make data to be more clean. I don't know if I'm confusing all of you or we are together. Ohana, do you feel like I'm confusing all of you?
Not really. I'm following so far how you're going, and it's pretty understandable, not confusing at all.
Okay, it's fine. If you guys feel like I'm confusing you, you can just talk. Yeah? Now, after you have done this, you can now decide to insert slicers. So after you have inserted pivot table, you can decide to insert slicers. So the way you insert slicer, for example, if I want to insert slicer for first of all, we need to name our labels. You don't, it doesn't look confused. So for here, this label name is name, and then this is maths. Remember, when sometimes you might want just to, okay, it's saying it exists, so we can play around it. We say math. Um, okay, this is pivot table. This is pivot for math, pivot for English. This is pivot for Swahili. This is pivot for Luya. This is pivot for Luo. I'm just putting P so that if you repeat, it will become problematic when doing the computation. And I don't think for position we will want to do the calculations. So there you just decide what you want to do with it. Things like oops. Like if you don't want to do a calculation, you can decide to move around on which one will make my data look better. And make sure that it doesn't repeat itself. If you feel like it's going to play with it's going to play with your data, you can just remove it, or you can decide to uh, move it somewhere that you feel like is better. Okay, I just leave it there. Now, the next thing that another thing that we can decide to do, again, we said we can decide to put pivotal tables. So if you want to put pivotal, I mean, if you want to insert slicers, I'm sorry, you select the data that you want, and then you say insert slicer. And then you choose the slicer that you want to use. For example, here, if I just use student name only, you will see it will something like this will appear. This is a slicer now. Now, if I click on Cynthia, it only shows information for Cynthia. If I click on John, it only shows information for John. So really, slicers are like filters. So we are filtering in according to a specific condition. Okay. Let me delete the slicer. And I want to reinsert it again. Insert, you click on insert, then you say slicer. And this time round, I want just to check slicers using math only. So we check. So for example, if I click on 12, it will only show this Cynthia Ndungu. She's the one who had 12. But if we play with data here, if we play with data, if we play with data here, me undo. If we play with data and say this one got, sorry, and say there's someone else who got 12. Let me delete this and remove the pivotal table. Actually, instead of removing, you just re-add again. Paulina Richards. One. Just a minute. Okay, so let's say we already done with this, and now you want to check again. We want to add 2 12s the way I've added in the data, and just check how it's going to be like. So I'm going to remove the pivotal table. I'm going to uncheck everything. For starters, you can just decide to do things manually like this. But as we continue becoming better and better, there's a way we can just decide to automate things. So instead of deleting one by one, you instead of deleting things one by one, you are just clicking once and then things happen. People will think that you are a magician. So let's show field lists. Sometimes you have the pivot table, but you can't see this side menu. So you click inside the pivotal table and then you say show field lists. So these are the field lists. Sometimes you want to see the options that are there. So you right click and then you say see options. Then that's where you are able to play around just to make sure vitu things are looking good. You just play around. Again, Excel is sometimes all about playing around. Okay, let me add. And I want to say, I want to exclude something. I want to say when we are adding, let's say this total, I want to exclude the one for 300. So sometimes when you are adding, you might decide that, me, I just want to exclude some values. That's where you just click on this arrow that looks down here, and you say you deselect the one you want to exclude. Okay. Another thing you can do with pivot table is, pivot table is mostly when you have a lot of data, let's say 1,000 sales. Again, there is something called DAT formulas. I think those are things that we learn next time. We learn about DAT formulas, how to play around them to make sure that your data is in good shape. I don't know if you have questions. Lawrence, do you have a question?
I don't have any question. I'm good. Thank you for helping us understand how to insert pivotal table. I've learned a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, again, for me, I'm not a professor, but again, we are all here to learn. So if you feel like maybe there's something that I missed out, you just feel free to add. We are all here to learn and gain from each other. Now we have talked about slicers. I will just use a few minutes to talk about something else in pivotal, the way Mr. Waga says, pivotal tables. And that thing is what we call refreshing pivotal table. The way you have been seeing me, you have been seeing me suffer. Huh? You have been seeing me suffer. I've inserted here 12, but it's not showing up here. So you're like, this guy, I think he doesn't just know how to do it. I wanted if someone could have pointed out uh, why it's not showing up. But the reason is because sometimes you need to refresh refresh your data so that it can show up in the in your, I mean, sometimes you change the source and you want it to show on the front end size. So to do that, you click on analyze and then you say refresh. Now if I refresh, you can see there are two 12s here. This one that I inserted. If I change here and say this is 56, again, I click on the pivotal table to make sure it's active. I say analyze, then I refresh and it will show up. If I say English is 99, again, click there on analyze, then you say refresh. Now English is 99. As I was inserting slices, I wanted to show something. So when you can decide that you want to show, let's say this one that is math, this one that got math 12. You want to just show it alone. You click on insert slices, or even here on analyze, it's fine. And then you click on the slicer, and then you can say you want math, you want to use math, you click OK. Now you see the number of options that we can use to slice have gone down by 1. Now if I click 12, you can see it's bringing back 2 records, because kuna hii ya 12 that hii ya 12 that has the same date. Sawa sawa. I think as a virtual assistant, these are some things that you are going to go through. I don't want to go too deep into it, but these are some of the things that we are going to learn, and this is just the basic of pivotal table, and this is how you can use it. I want to show one more thing. You see the way it's named here, the way it is looking like here, the titles or the labels. Sometimes you just want to change. Now, if you want to change, you can decide to change, let's say, the way average looks, the way Digo looks, sum, like it's not looking that well. So you can just use find and replace to change. Okay, that's one way of doing it. For example, here I will click on find and select, and then I click on find and replace. I don't know when the pop-up is not. Okay, let me click on find. Oh, sorry, it's showing on another screen. And then I will say options. Okay. And then I'll say find what? Then I'll just choose, I'll say find sum of. And then I'll say replace. So everything that is in sum of, I want to replace it with blank. I'll say find. Okay. And say replace. Sometimes you just say replace all, and everything, it will happen like magic. I was finding because I wanted to see if it's going to work. It's good to test first. In IT, you always test first before you go live. Sometimes you might just want to change the coloring of these slices, and so you'll just right click on the slicer, then you want to say size and properties, and then you can decide to put in your own size and properties. You just change things around. You can decide to change alt text, alternative text, depending on what you want. You can decide to change how it looks, the feel of your slicer, just to make it fun. It's always good. It's always good to make things look good. I think that's all for today. Today we just learned about pivot tables, and we learned about how to use rank. And I feel like it's all that we can learn for today. So next time we will discuss with Nelson and learn a skill. I think something that is also really relevant to virtual assistants. So I think that's all for today. I don't know if anyone has a question. Again, for Excel, there is a lot to do with it. It's not all about